morning sun spilled across the glass towers of Echo Atlantic, gilding the city with its usual arrogance. In the penthouse of Danjuma Towers, where marble floors gleamed like mirrors and chandeliers scattered light like stardust, Jason Danjuma stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, sipping coffee from a Versace mug. At 26, Jason was already the heir apparent to one of Nigeria's largest real estate fortunes. His father's empire stretched from Banana Island mansions to luxury malls in Abuja, but Jason himself was the type of billionaire the tabloids loved to call the People's Prince. He was tall, cool, effortlessly stylish in his tailored navy suit, and had a smile that could disarm even the coldest investor. He ran his own startup, a fintech company that had gone global within 3 years, and he was adored for his humility. Jason was proof that privilege didn't have to breed arrogance. Yet despite all his success, there was one area of his life where he seemed utterly blind: love. "Vanessa is the one, Mama," Jason said that morning, setting his mug aside as his mother entered the room. "She's perfect. You'll see." Madam Beatrice Danjuma, 52, carried herself with the grace of Lagos royalty. Slim, elegant, with pearls draped around her neck and her head wrapped in a silk scarf, she exuded power even in her silence. Her late husband's empire had doubled under her stewardship, and though she loved her son dearly, she did not believe in indulging his naivety. Beatrice raised an arched brow. "Perfect? Jason, I've met many women in this city who look perfect. Some even act perfect. That doesn't mean they are right for you." Jason grinned, flashing the same boyish charm that melted half of Lagos society. "You don't know her like I do. She loves me." But Beatrice's sharp eyes caught the little details her son refused to notice. Vanessa's smile never quite reached her eyes. Her compliments were timed, practiced. She adored Jason's money, his prestige, his cars, his penthouse. But did she adore Jason himself? Beatrice doubted it. She had seen women like Vanessa too many times at high society galas, women who knew how to dance in silk gowns but had no rhythm when it came to real love. Later that afternoon, Beatrice sat alone in her study, overlooking the glittering lagoon. The room was lined with mahogany shelves stacked with leather-bound books, photos of Jason as a child, and awards commemorating her business triumphs. Yet her gaze wasn't on the past, it was on the troubling future. Jason wanted to marry Vanessa. He was speaking of engagements, of white weddings in Echo hotels, of rings from Cartier. The very thought made Beatrice's stomach twist. She had lost her husband young. Jason was all she had left. The idea of him tying his future to a woman who didn't love him for who he was, that was unacceptable. Her phone buzzed. It was Kioma, her closest confidant. "Beatrice." Kioma's voice was cautious. "I know you don't want to hear this, but I've heard things. Vanessa has been seen at parties when Jason is out of town, with other men." Beatrice's fingers tightened around the phone. "Are you certain?" "I'm certain she's not the woman Jason thinks she is. But you know how he is. If you tell him, he won't listen." Yes, that was the problem. Jason was in denial. He saw Vanessa through a filter of infatuation, blind to every red flag. No matter what Beatrice said, he dismissed it as overprotectiveness. He was convinced Vanessa's love was pure. Beatrice set her phone down slowly. Her mind, trained by years of boardroom battles, clicked into strategy mode. Words would not convince Jason. He needed to see the truth for himself. And if Vanessa was as shallow as Beatrice suspected, the best way to expose her was to watch her when she thought no one important was watching. The plan formed itself with startling clarity. She would go undercover. Not as Beatrice Danjuma, billionaire matriarch. Not as Jason's mother, the woman Vanessa was eager to impress. She would strip away her pearls, her diamonds, her silks. She would become invisible. A cleaner. In Lagos, cleaners were everywhere, moving silently in the background of every mansion, every office, every hotel ballroom. People hardly noticed them, and when people believed they weren't being noticed, their masks slipped. Beatrice would see Vanessa's true face, one way or another. The next morning, at dawn, Beatrice stood before her mirror. Gone was the elegant queen of Banana Island. In her place stood Mama Grace, dressed in a faded wrapper, a threadbare blouse, and rubber slippers. Her hair, usually coiffed, was tucked under a cheap scarf. She applied powder to dull her skin's natural glow, bent her posture slightly, and practiced a voice with less authority, more weariness. When she entered Jason's mansion later that day, nobody gave her a second glance. To the staff, she was just another hire brought in to help with the upcoming engagement party. She carried a mop and bucket, eyes lowered. Jason brushed past her on his way out, not recognizing his own mother. Beatrice's heart twisted, but she kept her head bowed. This is the only way, she reminded herself. And then Vanessa arrived. She swept into the mansion in a designer dress, heels clicking against the marble. Her perfume announced her before her voice did. Beatrice, standing in the corner with her mop, watched closely. "Jason isn't here, madam," one of the butlers said politely. Vanessa frowned, tossing her handbag onto the sofa. "Of course he isn't. He's always too busy saving the world." She glanced at Beatrice, the disguise cleaner, and her lips curled in distaste. "And who is this one?" "New staff," the butler replied. Vanessa waved a dismissive hand. "Well, she should stay out of sight. I don't like people hanging around when I'm waiting." Beatrice lowered her gaze, her heart heavy. Already the mask was slipping. Already Vanessa had revealed a piece of herself Jason never saw. As the hours passed, Beatrice cleaned silently, listening, watching. Vanessa spent the afternoon on her phone, scrolling through social media, laughing at messages Jason would never see. She ordered a bottle of Jason's finest champagne for herself and made no attempt to hide her irritation when he didn't return quickly enough. Beatrice gripped her mop tightly. The truth was beginning to emerge, ugly and undeniable. Her son's heart was in the hands of a woman who had no love for him. And Beatrice Danjuma, billionaire mother and now undercover cleaner, vowed silently, before he gives her his name, I will show him her true face. The game had begun. The following week unfolded like an elaborate stage play in Jason's Banana Island mansion. Every day the actors performed their roles. Jason, the devoted lover, blinded by adoration. Vanessa, the flawless fiancée, with charm polished to a diamond's shine. And Beatrice, hidden in plain sight as Mama Grace, the cleaner, the invisible witness to it all. The mansion itself was an empire of glass and marble. The driveway glistened with black SUVs and a red Ferrari Jason never drove, but Vanessa adored posing beside. Inside, chandeliers dripped crystals over imported Italian furniture, while the lagoon sparkled through wide glass panes. It was a palace where every surface gleamed, and yet it was Beatrice's job to polish it further. Invisible. That was the word that defined Mama Grace. To the staff, she was just another hand to mop the endless floors. To Vanessa, she was barely human. And to Jason, she was non-existent, because he was too consumed with love to notice. On Monday, Jason prepared to leave for a board meeting. Beatrice was wiping down the stairs when Vanessa descended, wearing a cream silk gown that clung to her frame like poured honey. Jason's eyes lit up as though the sun itself had walked into his home. "Baby," Jason said warmly, kissing her hand. "I'll be gone for a few hours, but I'll call." Vanessa pouted, brushing imaginary lint from his lapel. "You work too much, Jason. Sometimes I wonder if you'll ever learn to put me first." Beatrice's jaw tightened as she kept her eyes down. Her son smiled apologetically, as though he owed Vanessa an explanation for being ambitious. "You know I'm doing all this for us, Vanessa, for our future." "Future," Vanessa repeated with a sigh, her eyes flicking briefly to the watch on his wrist. "A Patek Philippe worth millions." "Just don't let me get bored while you're away." Jason chuckled, completely missing the meaning laced in her words. He kissed her cheek again and left, the Ferrari roaring down the driveway. Silence fell across the living room, broken only by Vanessa's sigh as she flopped into the sofa. "Cleaner," she snapped, pointing at Beatrice without even looking. "Bring me cold water, Evian, not the local one." Beatrice set aside her mop and went to the kitchen. Her heart ached. This was the woman her son adored, a woman who treated staff like disposable objects. As she filled the bottle with ice, She remembered Kioma's warning. Vanessa wasn't in love. She was in love with the lifestyle. Later that afternoon, Beatrice carried laundry past the lounge and overheard Vanessa on the phone. The younger woman's voice was low, but the words carried clearly. "Yes, I'm still here. Don't worry, Jason suspects nothing. The engagement party will be next month. After that, I'll have everything I want." Beatrice froze, her heart hammering in her chest. She leaned closer, careful not to make a sound. "No, I don't love him," Vanessa continued, rolling her eyes as she scrolled through Instagram. "He's sweet, yes, but love doesn't buy yachts. Love doesn't get you a penthouse in Dubai. When I'm Mrs. Danjuma, I'll finally be who I deserve to be." Beatrice nearly dropped the laundry basket. Her blood boiled, but she swallowed her fury. Jason needed to hear this truth himself, but confronting Vanessa now would ruin the plan. She retreated silently, her chest heavy with the knowledge of what she had just confirmed. By Wednesday, Beatrice had witnessed more. Vanessa insulted the chef because the jollof rice was too spicy. She mocked the driver for speaking English with a thick accent, and when the gardener greeted her respectfully, she wrinkled her nose as though his presence polluted the air. Yet when Jason returned each evening, Vanessa transformed. She glowed, she laughed, she cooed, wrapping her arms around him like a woman deeply in love. She called him my angel and my world. Jason, poor Jason, melted under her touch. Beatrice's heart cracked a little more each day. She wanted to scream the truth in his face, but she knew he would only defend Vanessa. Love, after all, made fools of the wise. On Friday, Beatrice decided to test Vanessa's heart in small, subtle ways. She placed a gold bracelet, a family heirloom, deliberately chosen, on the console table by the entrance. She made sure Vanessa would be the first to notice it. Then she retreated to the hallway with a feather duster, pretending to work. Vanessa spotted it almost immediately. She glanced around, then picked it up, turning it over in her hand. For a moment, Beatrice dared to hope she might do the right thing. But Vanessa slipped the bracelet into her handbag without hesitation. Beatrice closed her eyes briefly, grief washing over her. Another confirmation. The next day, Beatrice pushed the test further. She pretended to collapse while cleaning, clutching her stomach. "Ah, madam, please. Water," she croaked, lying on the floor near the dining table. Vanessa, dressed in a glittering dress for a lunch date, glanced down at her without concern. "What nonsense is this?" she muttered. She turned to one of the other maids. "Can't you people take care of yourselves? Get her out of here. I don't want drama while I'm leaving." And with that, Vanessa stepped over Beatrice's body as though she were nothing more than spilled dirt. Beatrice forced herself to continue groaning until Vanessa's car pulled out of the driveway. Only then did she sit up, tears pricking her eyes. It was no longer suspicion, no longer theory. It was the truth. Vanessa did not love Jason, not even a little. By Sunday, Jason called the entire household staff together in the grand living room. He was smiling, eyes shining with excitement. Vanessa stood beside him, radiant in a red gown, her hand clasped proudly in his. "Everyone," Jason announced, "I want you to know that in a few weeks, Vanessa and I will be engaged. She has said yes." The staff clapped politely, though a few exchanged uneasy glances. Beatrice, standing quietly at the back with her mop, felt her knees weaken. She had witnessed enough to know this engagement would destroy her son. But Jason was beaming, blind with love, utterly convinced. And Vanessa? She smirked faintly, her eyes gleaming, not with affection, but with triumph. Beatrice gripped the mop until her knuckles whitened. This masquerade had gone far enough. Soon she would reveal the truth. But first, she needed Jason to see what she had seen, without disguise, without denial. The game was nearly at its breaking point. The mansion buzzed with preparation for the engagement party. Every corner smelled of polish and fresh flowers, and staff hurried about, rehearsing every detail so that Jason's announcement would be nothing short of royal. Yet amid the glitter and chatter, Beatrice, hidden as Mama Grace, moved silently, her mind a storm. She had seen enough to know Vanessa was dangerous for her son, but Jason was still blind, lost in devotion. Words would not wake him. He needed undeniable proof, something so clear even love's blindness could not distort it. Beatrice tightened the scarf around her head. If Vanessa truly has no heart for Jason, she'll show it when tested. That Monday, by Thursday, Beatrice was ready for her boldest test yet. She arranged for a friend, Kioma, to pose as a wealthy investor interested in Jason's company. Kioma would flirt with Jason in Vanessa's presence, just enough to spark reaction. That evening, Jason hosted a small dinner at the mansion. Beatrice stood in the corner, polishing the silverware, her eyes sharp as a hawk. Kioma arrived in a sleek gown, carrying herself with the confidence of Lagos's elite. Jason, ever the gentleman, welcomed her warmly. "It's an honor to have you here, Miss Offer." As the evening went on, Kioma laughed at Jason's jokes, touched his arm lightly, and praised his business acumen. Jason was oblivious to the act. He was simply being polite. But Vanessa? Her eyes blazed with fury. She clenched her wineglass so tightly Beatrice feared it would shatter. When Kioma excused herself briefly, Vanessa leaned toward Jason, her smile brittle. "Do you always let women paw at you like that, Jason?" she hissed. Jason blinked, surprised. "She's a business associate, Vanessa. Please don't misunderstand." "Misunderstand?" Vanessa cut in sharply. "Do you think I'm blind? She's after you." Jason frowned. "Even if she were, I only want you. Isn't that enough?" Beatrice held her breath. This was Vanessa's chance to show trust, to reassure him, to be a woman in love. But instead, Vanessa tossed her hair and sneered. "You think your devotion is enough? Jason, you're naive. Women like Kioma don't stop until they get what they want. If you want me, then prove it. Cut her off. Sell her shares if you must. I will not compete." Jason's face fell, pain flickering in his eyes. "Vanessa, don't talk like that. You know my heart is yours." But Vanessa's lips curled. "Then show me, or don't expect me to stay." Beatrice's chest burned with anger. It wasn't love Vanessa wanted. It was control. It wasn't Jason's heart she desired. It was his empire. Later that night, when Jason had gone to take a call, Vanessa wandered into the kitchen, where Beatrice was wiping counters. "You," Vanessa snapped, pointing at her. "Cleaner. Tell me, do you think Jason is handsome?" Beatrice looked up, feigning confusion. "Ah, madam, Olga, Jason is a good man. Kind." Vanessa smirked. "Kind? Yes, that's his weakness. He's too kind to see the truth. But I see it, and soon everything he has will be mine." Beatrice froze, her rag clutched in her hand. Vanessa didn't realize who she was speaking to. She thought she was confiding in a mere servant. "I'll be Mrs. Danjuma," Vanessa continued, her eyes glinting. "And when that happens, Jason won't just love me. He'll belong to me. Every house, every car, every kobo. His mother will have no say. No one will." Beatrice's heart pounded in her ears. She had heard enough. The mask was gone. The pretense was finished. Vanessa was not just unloving. She was dangerous, ruthless. And Jason was one step away from marrying her. That night, Beatrice sat in her quarters, head bowed, the scarf still tight around her hair. She stared at her reflection in the small mirror. The weary cleaner stared back, but behind the disguise was a mother who would not allow her son to be destroyed. She thought of Jason as a boy, running barefoot through their garden, his laughter filling the air. She thought of him at 16, awkward but brilliant, confiding in her about dreams bigger than the empire he was set to inherit. And she thought of him now, a man yet still vulnerable where love was concerned. No, she would not let Vanessa consume him. Her plan had reached its limit. The engagement party was days away. It was time for the truth to come out. She would reveal everything, her disguise, Vanessa's cruelty, the lies she had uncovered, and Jason would finally see. But Beatrice knew the risk. The truth could shatter him. The ballroom of Echo Hotel's suites shimmered with excess that evening. Crystal chandeliers glowed like captured stars, and velvet drapes pooled onto polished marble floors. Lagos elite had gathered, Oil magnates in tailored tuxedos, tech tycoons with model girlfriends, and politicians with practiced smiles. At the center of it all stood Jason Danjuma, dashing in a white tuxedo, his arm proudly around Vanessa, who glittered in a red sequin gown. It was the night the world would know. Jason and Vanessa were officially engaged. At the far end of the room, unnoticed, Beatrice stood in her disguise. The humble wrapper, the rubber slippers, the scarf over her hair. Mama Grace, the cleaner, looked absurdly out of place in such grandeur. Yet she had chosen to stay in character until the final moment. Tonight there would be no more shadows. Tonight she would end the charade. The announcement began with champagne. Glasses clinked, laughter rang, and the MC's voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present the future Mrs. Jason Danjuma, Vanessa Obi. The crowd erupted in applause. Jason lifted Vanessa's hand to his lips, eyes glowing with devotion. Vanessa basked in the attention, her smile sharp as a blade. Beatrice's chest tightened. She saw only triumph in Vanessa's eyes, not love. Her son was seconds away from chaining himself to a woman who would bleed him dry. She stepped forward. "Mama Grace!" one of the waiters hissed, startled. "Where are you going? This is not—" But Beatrice brushed past him, moving steadily toward the stage. A murmur rippled through the crowd as the cleaner intruded into the spotlight. Guests whispered, some frowned. Jason turned, confused. "Excuse me," Jason said gently, stepping toward her. "This isn't the time. Please, whatever you need, we'll help you later." But Beatrice raised her hand. Her voice, though disguised for weeks, now rang with unmistakable authority. "There will be no later," she said. Jason froze. Something in her tone unsettled him. Vanessa scowled. "Who let the staff walk up here? Jason, get rid of her." Beatrice reached up, untied the scarf and let it fall. She straightened, shedding the slouch of Mama Grace. The room gasped as pearls glimmered beneath the humble blouse, and her true poise returned. It was Madam Beatrice Danjuma, the matriarch herself. The ballroom fell silent. Jason's eyes widened. "Mama!" His voice cracked with disbelief. "Yes, Jason," Beatrice said, her gaze sweeping across the stunned guests before settling on her son. "It's me." Vanessa staggered back, her smile faltering. "What is this? What kind of game are you playing?" Beatrice turned to face her fully. "The only game here has been yours, Vanessa, and I've watched you play it from the shadows." Gasps rippled across the crowd. Phones lifted discreetly, recording every word. Jason looked between them, bewildered. "Mama, what do you mean? Why are you dressed like this? Pretending to be a cleaner?" Beatrice's voice wavered, but her eyes never left Vanessa. "Because you would never have believed me if I had told you the truth. You're in love, Jason. So in love you couldn't see. I had to show you. I had to see for myself." Vanessa's face reddened with anger. "This is ridiculous. She's making things up because she doesn't want you to be happy, Jason. She's jealous." "Jealous?" Beatrice's voice cut like glass. "Jealous of what? Of the way you belittled staff when you thought no one important was watching? Of how you stole a bracelet that didn't belong to you? Of how you stepped over a sick woman on the floor without lifting a finger?" The crowd gasped again. Vanessa's eyes darted, panic flickering in her smile. "Lies," she snapped. "All lies." Beatrice's gaze softened, but her words were firm. "I was that woman, Vanessa. I was Mama Grace. And everything you did, I saw with my own eyes." The ballroom erupted in whispers. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others nodded knowingly, as though they had always suspected. Jason stood frozen, pale, his breath shallow. "Vanessa," he whispered, "is this true?" Vanessa's composure cracked. She tried to reach for Jason's hand. "Baby, listen, it's not what it looks like." Jason pulled back. His voice trembled. "Then tell me what it is, Vanessa. Tell me you didn't say you don't love me. Tell me you didn't say you wanted my empire, not my heart." Beatrice's chest ached at the raw pain in her son's voice. Vanessa faltered. words tumbling uselessly. Jason, I was upset. I didn't mean. But Jason's eyes had changed. The haze of denial was gone. He saw her clearly now, her shallow eyes, her greedy ambition. The woman he thought was his forever was nothing more than a mask. Jason's voice broke. You never loved me. Silence fell like a hammer. Vanessa's lips trembled, but she could not deny it. Her silence was her confession. Jason turned to his mother, tears glistening in his eyes. Mama, why didn't you just tell me? Beatrice stepped closer, cupping his face. Because you wouldn't have believed me. I needed you to see her true face, and I couldn't risk losing you to her lies. Forgive me, son. I disguised myself not to shame you, but to save you. Jason's lips quivered. He pulled her into a tight embrace, burying his face in her shoulder. For the first time that night, Beatrice allowed her tears to fall. Vanessa, seething, realized the crowd had turned against her. Guests whispered in disgust. Cameras captured every angle. Her dream of becoming Mrs. Danjuma had crumbled in seconds. With a final glare, she snatched her clutch and stormed out, heels clicking furiously across the marble floor. The MC cleared his throat awkwardly, trying to salvage the evening, but the party was over. One by one, guests murmured farewells and slipped out, leaving Jason and his mother standing alone at the center of the grand, empty ballroom. Jason sat heavily on a chair, his hands trembling. I loved her, Mama. I thought she was the one. Beatrice knelt beside him, taking his hand. Love is blind, my son, but blindness doesn't mean foolishness. You are wiser tonight than you were yesterday. And one day, you'll find someone who loves you for you, not for what you own. Jason closed his eyes, his heart aching. But for the first time, the illusion was gone. He saw clearly, and though his heart was broken, it was finally free. Beatrice exhaled, weary but relieved. She had risked everything, her dignity, her son's trust, to protect him. And though the night had been painful, she knew it was worth it. That night, as they left the ballroom together, mother and son side by side, Lagos glittered outside the windows. The city never slept, and neither did its lessons. But for Jason, one chapter had ended. And for Beatrice, her mission as a mother was fulfilled. The mansion felt different in the weeks that followed. The chandeliers still glimmered, the marble floors still shone, and the lagoon still stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls. But the air was lighter, freer, as though the house itself had exhaled a burden. Jason sat on the terrace one late afternoon, the sun melting into the horizon, painting the water gold. A half-finished glass of wine rested on the table beside him, untouched. He wore no tuxedo tonight, no polished mask for the world. Just a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled, his hair ruffled by the breeze. His mother joined him quietly, a silk shawl draped over her shoulders. For a moment they sat in silence, listening to the distant hum of the city, the call of gulls, the rhythm of waves lapping against Banana Island's shore. You haven't touched your wine, Beatrice said softly. Jason gave a humorless smile. It doesn't taste the same. He paused, then added, nothing does. Beatrice reached for his hand, squeezing gently. Healing takes time, Jason. You were in love with an illusion. It hurts because it felt real to you. Jason nodded, his jaw tightening. I keep asking myself how I missed it, how I didn't see what she really was. Everyone probably thinks I'm a fool. No, Beatrice said firmly. They think you're human. Even kings are blind when the heart is involved. What matters is that you see clearly now. Jason leaned back, exhaling. His eyes were tired, but the weight in them had shifted. Pain lingered, yes, but no longer the sharp wound of betrayal. More like a scar beginning to form, a reminder of what he would never allow again. I hated you at first, he admitted, glancing at her. That night at the hotel, when you revealed yourself, I felt betrayed, like you didn't trust me to make my own choices. Beatrice's heart clenched. I know, she whispered, and for that, I am sorry. but I couldn't stand by and watch you walk into chains. Sometimes love means protecting, even when it hurts. Jason studied her for a long moment, then sighed. I understand now. You didn't just save me from her. You saved me from myself. They sat in silence again, the air thick with unspoken forgiveness. Finally, Jason straightened, a small, determined light in his eyes. I'll be fine, Mama. One day I'll find someone who sees me. Not the empire, not the name, but me. And when I do, I'll know. Beatrice smiled, her eyes glistening. Yes, my son. And when that day comes, you won't need me to test her. You'll see it yourself. The last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city into twilight. Lagos glimmered alive with lights, restless and untamed, but on that terrace a rare peace settled. Mother and son, side by side, no longer divided by disguise or denial, but bound by truth, resilience, and love. For Beatrice, the battle was over.